Eddie Edwards, the senior software engineer for Giant Software, gave us some detailed information about ground deformation. Let's take a look at the teaser video and then we'll break it down.
Here's a cool new feature for Farming Simulator 25.
By operating heavy machinery, you will leave your marks in the ground. The heavier the vehicle, the deeper the tire tracks. Plowing in particular is a lot of fun when looking at the deformation of the soil. And don't forget to clean your machines when you're done. There's some mud stuck in the tread of the tires.
Giants has been teasing ground deformation ever since they announced FS25, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on here. In the latest blog post for ground deformation, they kind of went into more detail on what was going on with an interview from Eddie Edwards. Eddie has been with the company for over a decade and has done a lot to make the game much better, including ground deformation. This article is full of information. Let's break it down. Ground types. Every ground type has a different level of firmness and viscosity. Grounds such as asphalt and concrete cannot be deformed. Mud can be deformed a lot. Driving on snow instantly crushes it. Ground moisture affects the amount of deformation. The wetter the ground, the greater the deformation. Vehicles. Vehicles will also contribute to the amount of deformation. The heavier the tractor, the greater the deformation. The wider wheels will deform less than skinny ones, much like real life. The speed of the vehicle will affect the amount as well. Slower moving vehicles will sink faster than a fast moving vehicle. Driving. Players will be able to experience ground deformation in many ways. There's a physical response from the terrain. You will feel the tractor bumping over the ground. You will see it creating ruts and tracks. If you go back over ruts, you will feel the effect from them as well. The greater the deformation, the harder it is to steer. Driving in the rain will be more difficult than driving when it's sunny. You may need to consider which tires are best suited for different seasons and types of field work. If I take my hands off the wheel, will it stick to the ruts? Plowing. Plowing has a major upgrade. Plow creates real physical furrows that are more visible than ever. Deformation in the furrows will affect the tractor as you drive through and over them. Tracked vehicles will have a noticeable difference in how much better they can navigate the fields. Wait, so it finally matters if you have tracks versus wheels? How ground deformation really works. There's a lot going on in the background to make ground deformation possible. The ground deformation works on a grid size of 12.5 centimeters, which works out to be 16K by 16K for a 2-kilometer map, aka 2x. That is 256 megapixels with the map only being 4 megapixels, which in turn means that the ground deformation is super detailed. There's a procedural level of ground deformation based on the terrain mapping. Textures such as plowed or cultivated fields will have a default deformation. That default deformation is loaded with the texture. Deformation data is saved in partitions or sections within a density map file. Separating the data into these sections allows the ability to ignore deformation data where deformation doesn't exist. There is a custom density map compression system that has been optimized to improve performance. To support fast operations with the new high-resolution data, they created a density map processing unit, DPU, which is a GPU emulator that runs on the CPU that allows the system to run much faster than previously possible. The Giants team took extra time to optimize many of the processing units built into the game engine to make more than what the game offers possible. Previously, the terrain resolution was 0.5 meters. It is now 0.125 or 4 times greater in each direction. That equates to 16 times as many triangles as before. In turn, this made the wheel versus terrain collision detection 16 times slower. So they wrote a custom implementation for FS25, which is around 30 times faster than the old version. This change improves the vehicle physics by twice the speed, even with all the new features. The overall physics system has been revamped, enabling greater performance and more realistic physics. Terrain quadri mesh was added into the game, which enables high-resolution triangles rendering near the player, and lower resolution further away. No need to render in physical detail when it can be rendered in with shaders and textures. There is a terrain virtual texture system that enables a smooth transition as the player moves across the map. That basically turns the deformation on and off based on the distance the player is from the area, kind of like a deformation zone in a way. Even though the deformation is not rendered in the distance using triangles, it is still shaded and rendered rendered into the terrain texture via normal mapping to make the deformation visible without having to calculate the physics or triangles of the actual deformation. In other words, you see the bump or dip, but it is not physically a bump or dip until you're close to it. Deformation is clearly visible even at a distance, which enables you to be able to watch AI vehicles leave tracks in a field even if you're a kilometer away. With the changes in the density maps, will Giants provide the tools to make conversions possible? I would think so. It would be nice to easily convert my maps from 22 to 25 and only have to worry about what I need to do with the assets that were from 22. Whoa, talk about information overload. I don't know about you, but I learned a lot about ground deformation and it's very detailed. I do have quite a few questions though. Early on, they mentioned that ground deformation will disappear over time, kind of like how the tire tracks for 22 do. You drive for so long and the tracks start disappearing after a while. I wonder if in 25, if they figured out a way to keep that deformation, so if you leave the game, come back, it's still there. I'm not sure. Little mixed on how that's going to work with the way they worded things in this article. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. What do you guys think? Do you think ground deformation is really cool and the way they've done everything? Do you understand it? Continue the conversation in the comments. Let us know what you think. We'd be happy to hear it. And if you know something that we don't, let us know. Thank you for watching this video. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks for stopping by.